Right, anyway, let's move on to another big story we've had in the last 7 days, which is we've been talking about slots at Sydney Airport now for almost about a year. To give you the background for those people that aren't aware, essentially there is something called the 80-20 rule at Sydney Airport. And what that means is if you're an airline and you hold a slot, and by a slot we mean a literal takeoff time slot, you can keep that forever as long as you fly it 80% of the time. So this means if you cancel it, you can cancel 1 in 5 flights and still keep that forever. Now, obviously, some slots are better than others. Obviously, the peak time slots are much more valuable than the off-peak time slots. And the argument of Rex and Bonza and also of Sydney Airport is that the larger airlines are effectively gaming the system. They are squatting, I think, to use Rex Deputy Chairman John Sharp's, they are squatting on these slots. Qantas and Virgin have vehemently denied that's the case. But there's been a lot of talk for a lot of time that we need to reform this slot system, that the 80-20 rule is too lenient and that it should be maybe a 90-10 rule, or we should have a whole new system of allocating them in order to give these upstart airlines like Rex and Bonza more of a fighting chance. We've been talking about this for a year, and now the government, to their credit, have actually come and made a series of major reforms to the system. Jake, tell us how it's going to work.
Well, first of all, to get it out of the way, there will be no change to the 80-20 rule.
No change at all.
Catherine King has said that will remain in place. And I think it's sort of been pointed out by figures elsewhere, predominantly the airlines, I believe, that this is sort of the international standard, 80-20. But they have introduced they're going to be introducing a number of reforms. So, for example, there will be a new sort of transparency, accountability, compliance regime regarding slot usage. So this is Transport Minister Catherine King has said that this will crack down on slot misuse. Airlines will have to provide regular information on how they use the slots, reasons for cancellations or major delays. This will be regularly published. Independent audits will be undertaken of slot usage, again, with results published to better detect and crack down on anti-competitive behaviour. There will be modernised penalties for anti-competitive behaviours, updated and strengthened enforcement tools for the government to watch airlines more closely and take effective legal action where necessary. So all this stuff about transparency, accountability, compliance, cracking down on bad actors. We also have the shortening of the peak period times at Sydney Airport currently it's 6 to 11 a.m. and 3 to 8 p.m. It will be changed to 7 to 11 a.m. and 5 to 8 p.m. Regional New South Wales services will be able to apply for any slot during these times instead of just those set aside for priority access. There's going to be, this peak period is changing to help free up these currently unused slots from 6 to 7 and 3 to 5 p.m. The slot manager will also be required to consider giving priority to regional New South Wales airlines asking for peak slots. The last big thing that we're touching on is this new recovery period, which is basically if there is a severe weather event or other major disruption at Sydney Airport, of which there have been a lot lately, for up to 2 hours on those days, the cap will effectively increase from 80 to 85 movements per hour. So you'd get an extra 10 movements on those days where there has been some kind of severe weather or other disruption.
Which sounds very sensible to me.
Yes, yeah, and Sydney Airport and the airlines have basically all come out in favour of these changes, albeit for slightly different reasons. Qantas was saying that this new transparency will effectively vindicate its denial of slot hoarding. They're saying they will prove that this data will prove that we have not been hoarding slots, that we are doing everything above board, that we are using the slots that we are allocated. Meanwhile, airlines like Bonza, which has been angling to get into Sydney Airport for a long time, Bonza has been saying this will give us a fighting chance at getting into Sydney Airport. We think we could serve something like 20 destinations from Sydney Airport. We are eager to get in there. This will, give us that opportunity.
Because at the moment, as Jake kind of said that, at the moment, they don't necessarily have to publish why they cancel a flight. They don't need to do that. So at the moment, it's very difficult particularly for journalists to be able to check on this. And so you've got the smaller airlines saying there's this slot hoarding. You've got Qantas and Virgin saying that's absolutely rubbish. So by having to publish this, if there were to be any slot hoarding, it would make it very difficult, and there are punishments. And also, it just sounds like generally we will be allowed to kind of almost artificially favour the smaller airlines to get to foot in the door. And they've also changed the peak period as well, haven't they?
Yes. They've shortened the peak period.
They've shortened the peak period. So I think the proof will be in the pudding, really, because we're going to have to see where we are in a year's time. Has this actually given more of a chance to Bonza and Rex, who are struggling to get in at the moment?
Yeah, no, and fingers crossed, because we need more. Sydney Airport is full to bursting, and Western Sydney Airport's not coming for another 2 years. So we do need more airlines to be able to get into Sydney Airport so that we have more of a choice. Hey, speaking of different airlines and performance, the latest Bitra data came out this month.
And can you please tell me which airline was definitively the best, Jake?
No.
Who was the winner?
No, I can't.
Why not? Surely it's as simple as whoever's top of the rankings.
Because 3 different airlines, Adam, have all claimed victory out of the Bitra data. Qantas said, we have beaten Virgin for the 17th straight month. Rex has said, look, we were the best in on-time departures and cancellations. Bonza has said, we were the best in on-time arrivals. Virgin has been notably quiet because they were not the first in anything.
No, but it does prove the old adage that you can kind of prove anything with numbers. It's all getting a little bit silly, because when they release the information, they break down on-time departures versus on-time arrivals, which are usually very, very similar. But sometimes one airline can pick on one or the other to claim victory. Again, Qantas might call itself the Qantas Group, or it could divvy itself down into its various combatant entries. Qantas can say we're the best against Virgin and forget about all other airlines, because they would claim that you can't compare Qantas against Bonza, etc., etc., etc. It does make it a little bit silly.
Generally speaking, in the figures, you will often, in the official Bitra figures, you will find Qantas brand, like Qantas QF services, so Qantas and Qantas Link, marked separately to Jetstar, whereas Virgin, generally speaking, will have sort of all VA services, because Virgin and Virgin Australia Regional are both flown under VA, but they do also break out Virgin Australia Regional Airlines separately. Now, interestingly, Adam, Bonza has said that they were first in the table in on-time arrivals, which is technically true if you don't count Virgin Australia Regional as separate from Virgin Australia proper.
So there's skullduggery everywhere, is what I'm learning.
There is. So, on average, across participating airlines, 73.4% for on-time arrivals, 74.2% on-time departures, 3.1% cancellations. This is still worse than the long-term averages of 81% on-time arrivals, 82.1% on-time departures, 2.2% cancellations.
So really, in my view, and I'm sure this is your view as well, Jay, they should just shut up until they can actually be better than how it used to be post-COVID. You're just saying, well, it's rubbish, but we're the best of the losers, effectively.
In fairness, Rex did do very well comparatively in on-time departures. So 80.9% on-time departures, which is just shy of the long-term average. Cancellations were a lot better than the long-term average, 0.6% compared to 2.2%. So, they have that. Bonza has come back very strongly from its poor showing in December, which we've touched on before in this podcast, I believe. That was all due to the Gold Coast base. So they got 78.6% on-time arrivals. Now, this was behind VARA, which got 82%, but they did beat Rex, Qantas, Jetstar, and Virgin proper. So,
give everyone a gold medal.
Well done. But they call us the participation trophy generation, Adam. But who was handing out the trophies?